Yeah, I'm back now.
Hello and welcome in to LFC Transfer Room after a disappointing defeat to Tottenham in the Carabao Cup Semi-Final first leg. Sorry if my voice just goes halfway through. I'm really unwell, joined by Dan and Kings. Start with you, Dan. How are you this evening?
I was fine. I got a desk to put together, and I was expecting, a interesting, fun match, and I got something a bit dire and turgid. It wasn't as fun as I was expecting. Um, you know, Disappointing to lose our second game of the season in January when the last time we lost was September. So it's 4 months without defeat was really really nice. I don't like how it feels. I'd rather we not do it again for some time. If the Reds could do that, I'd be very much appreciate that.
Yeah, completely agree. Kings. When Dan puts it like that, I think we realise how reactionary our fan base can be sometimes when it's second defeat in 4 months. We're in a good position this season. Another leg to go. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it is one of those things that you think, oh, I hate losing, but if you're going to lose, I'd rather lose in the Carabao Cup, even in the semi-finals, than I would in the league. Excuse me. It wasn't the best game. Anybody expecting a 6-3 game was never going to get that, probably, even with injuries to Spurs, etc. But it's one of them, isn't it? It's like, well, we can debate all night how good Liverpool were, how some of the players were off it, and should the goal have stood, should he be on the pitch, etc. It's the way it goes. If you'd have said to me at the beginning 1-0 loss, it's like it's not the end of the world. They've got to come to Anfield yet. Yes, they might have some players back, but they've got to come for the second leg, and I don't see any way where they won't be in the final for Liverpool FC, to be honest.
Yeah, and lad, it's Tottenham. Like they're gonna come, they're gonna play football
Yeah,
still. It's the most Spurs thing ever to get a 1-0 home win in a Carabao Cup final, or semi-final. I apologize. Go to Anfield and then we beat them 2-0 or 2-1 or whatever, 3-0. Again, like if you're gonna
yeah.
lose a game, like this is if you get the loss over now, you got Accrington Stanley and I believe it's Accrington Stanley and Forest. There
Oh,
are more important games right now,
Yeah.
especially Forest away, which is I'm not looking forward to that. I expect it to be a dogfight. But, if we get a result against Forest, just get a scrappy 1-0 or just whatever you score. If you go and beat Forest away, none of this matters. I'm just gotta be honest. It doesn't really matter if we lost the top of the day. A 1-0 deficit, you should be able to turn over at Anfield in a Carabao Cup semi. And if you don't, well, it is what it is. But this is not the Champions League quarters or the semis.
yeah, Kings. What about Raz comments? Something that is very much up for a conversation at the minute. Harvey Elliott, because it just feels like Harness doesn't fancy him, doesn't it? Even in games like today, where you think Jones probably it didn't have his best game in the 10, wasn't very creative. Where Harvey Elliott, who is a very creative player, yeah, doesn't have legs like obviously I don't think anyone in the whole squad does, but surely bringing him on could have had a bit of an impact. But he just never seems to give Elliott the nod, does he?
I think it's unfortunate for Harvey Elliott because we all know, he's a bored Liverpool fan. It's a dream come true to play for the club, etc. And under Klopp, he was fairly regular. But then, of course, as soon as Slot comes in, he gets an injury. And I think that's thrown him a little bit because he probably had chance then to say, right, I'm going to stake a claim, I'm going to play, except hopefully. And because he's been out to the side and it wasn't a 2 week thing, it was a prolonged period. So at the same time, then Slot's come in and just been like, well, I can't even pick him, just disregard him. And it almost seems like he can't play his way back in now. What is he doing in training that's not catching his eye? That's what we've got to look at, really,
Yeah.
because if he can't, at the training ground, if he can't get Slot to look at him and think, yeah, do you know what, he's worth at least a substitution appearance to maybe come on and change something like tonight. If he can't even do that, it's like, wow, that says a lot for what maybe Slot does think. He has all managers have their favourites, unfortunately, and whether that's Elliott or Salah or Alisson or whoever it is, the manager always has a go-to player or go-to players, and it seems that he's not one of them, which is a shame for the lad because he does offer a lot. And like you said tonight, I think if he'd replaced Jones in that position, he possibly could have just unlocked their defence a little bit, little bit different, a bit of trickery somewhere would have probably helped tonight. But it's just the way it is. But yeah, he's finding it really difficult at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I
Dan,
think
what
so.
about
The last time,
Chiesa?
oh, sorry, I was gonna say because he's only started Harvey. The last time was the Carabao at Southampton, and then he's been a sub he was a sub at Spurs, a sub at Leicester, and a sub at West Ham. So he has been like using him here and there in bits and pieces. It's just that I feel like Slot hasn't figured out what he wants to do with Harvey yet in this team as like a starter. Like he's having him do like an all action role, kind of like how Klopp did. But he has been making sub appearances more and more ever since his injury. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Matty.
That's fine.
Sorry, I was just going to say another player who's struggling to get into the side is Chiesa. Derek's right in a sense of like we just keep saying we're bedding him in. He has been here since the summer now. I don't know how much longer he needs to bed in, but Salah was poor today. So what do you think's stopping Slot giving Chiesa a 10, 15, 20-minute run out in place of Salah, someone who's tried to fight for his place? He's been here a good few months now, hasn't got any starts really. Like, why not utilise that? Surely that's what he was coming for games where Salah isn't at the races. Yeah, it's very few and far between, but nights like tonight was made for Chiesa to come on wearing it.
So I think it's a couple of things, and I think part of it's managing both Salah and Van Dijk, and which both are in the final of their contract. Obviously, Salah wants to play as much as possible, not just to strengthen his contract position, but to make his point that he's the most valuable player in this team. Chiesa, I imagine if Chiesa had a full preseason and was actually fit for most of the year, we would see more of him because he really only had that one start. I think it was like the Carabao Cup at home against West Ham, I think it was. But I imagine Chiesa is going to get a game at Accrington Stanley. I think for Chiesa, it's very simple. It's just fitness. I think if Chiesa was fit, we'd see him come in for Salah more. But honestly, this is what Slot said when he first came in, is that he said, these players say we want to play 2 games a week. Your Van Dijks, your Salahs, Allison, like we want to play all the time. And he's playing them. He's saying, you got to show me, because the last time they did this intense 2 games a week with Champions League and League was in 2022, 2023. And we weren't up to snuff. I think now we're kind of getting, if you like, people are going to overreact to the past 2 games because, Liverpool fans overreact is never an issue. I think in both games in isolation are different. One, today, I don't think Spurs were really that good. I think that this was probably the worst Spurs have played without conceding a goal. Granted, I think that's also the fact that because we played bad, we didn't take advantage of it. Or rather, I think Slot didn't pick the lineup. I think he would have if this was a league game. Let me rephrase that a bit. This is kind of more of a side that he's like, who needs minutes? Jones gets some minutes. I'm going to go with Jones, Grav, and Mecca. They're the ones that's starting. Jota needs minutes from being injured. Gakpo's been informed. It's a very kind of mishmashy team. It's just fitness with Chiesa. I mean, I imagine it was the same thing with Kwanzaa, is that he wanted to play him into form. And I thought Jarrell did very, very good until he got that injury, which I have no idea what it was. If it was a muscle strain.
Apparently he was sick. No, apparently he was sick.
Jarrell was?
Yeah, that's what.
Then yeah, so they got the flu. So I have a good answer for why we haven't played well. They're probably all sick with the flu in one way, shape, or form. They all got a cold or a sniffle of the flu. They all played in like that terrible conditions.
It's horrible. If they've got what's going around, it is horrible.
They probably do. I mean, at this point, they probably do. And that's probably why they're all being a bit like, for lack of a better term, shite, is because they're all probably a bit sick. They're all probably a bit sick and a bit tired. And they're just just going to have to play it out of their system. Listen, I think people are going to listen, we've already seen a couple of comments in here about inroads, already talking about the ownership, which is hilarious because I didn't see John Henry line up today, or Tom Werner, or Mike Gordon in goal. Listen, like, people are going to make comments because it's the January transfer window, which, we've missed out on so many ball busting players like the goalkeeper at, Spurs or whoever else, Pitaluga, who was sold to Fluminense. Listen, if they're probably all a bit sick, they're all a bit out of form at the moment. We're 6 points ahead with a game in hand and possibly go 9 if we beat Forest. The world's not, the sky is not falling down, lads. Yes, they played bad. We've played bad before and won. We played bad before and drawn. Today we played bad. Bergvall should have been sent off. I'm sorry, he just been sent off, and we wouldn't have scored. And it would have been a 0-0, it would have been crap, but we would have all moved on. There's no reason to react to this result. It was crap. Liverpool played bad. Liverpool played bad for 2 games. I think Slot's had 2 bad games. They've shown that they can recover from this onwards and upwards to Accrington Stanley, as in my point of view. I will say that they did play better with Darwin, and I will keep stressing that even though people don't like Darwin Nunez, which is fine, we play better with him than without him, because having a 6'2" Uruguayan who's fast just makes you play better, because the opposition are like, we're gonna drop 5 yards. He's more scarier than Diogo Jota, in my opinion. Sorry for the little tangent there, Kings.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, to be fair,
Kings, a lot of
sorry, Matt.
No, I was going to move on to this and say a lot of our fans are in the same boat as Ishii, with each that the Slot needs to rotate the side more. But I looked at this comment that Boyden said. I seen this the other day myself. Slot is notorious for keeping his same 11 players, the ones he trusts. He starts getting most games with them. I looked at his final sides. Very, very rarely did he rotate. Do you think that's maybe something that he probably needs to do, given that the intensity of the Liverpool Football Club player compared to, say, a Feyenoord? And that's no disrespect to Feyenoord, it's just the Premier League's level is different than the Eredivisie, for example, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's bang on, to be honest. The levels in the leagues are so different. We all know that the Premier League is so fast, and Dutch players do come into the league and they do well, but they need to bed in a little bit. And we've seen that with players like Gakpo, etc. I think it's such a difficult thing to have a first 11 and pretty much say, right, that's it. Just the odd substitute. It's never going to work in the Premier League. We've realised that. Gone are the days which I was able to watch. Like in the late 70s and in the 80s. Where they had 11 players and they go, yeah, we may change one player every now and then, because that's what Liverpool did. The first 11 were the team. That was it. But that was football then. It's so different now. It's fast. The injuries do come thick and fast, I suppose, because we play so many games as well. It's different now saying, well, we played 36 games and that's it. You played Champions League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup like tonight. You're 60, 70 games potentially. And it's like the players can't do that with the first 11 and that's, not change it. I can understand, where Derek's coming from when he was saying about Kay's, this thing of his fitness. If he's on the bench, he's got to be at least fit enough to do 15, 20 minutes. Why put him on the bench otherwise? And it's the same, as we've just talked about Elliott. It's like the people are there who could potentially come on and unlock a different way of playing for the last part of the game. The first part of the game, the first half in this game, it was just so boring. And I almost didn't have an interest, because I was like, oh, it's the cup. Yes, it's the cup semi-final, etc. But it's like, it's not the league. The intensity wasn't there. Spurs had a third string out, and I know they've won. And like I said at the beginning, it was all debatable whether the goal, how it should have been on the field, etc. It doesn't matter. We're 1-0 down at what is essentially half time in this. But Slot has to look at it. He could have started Kelleher tonight. I don't think it'd have done him no harm whatsoever. To be honest, he's been a decent player this season for the club. And he puts Alisson in, who just nearly give it away to Spurs, earlier in the game. And it's like, you think to yourself, just give others a try. Because by deviating from this set 11 or 12 or whatever he's going to have, does give you a chance to look at other players more intensely, and potentially they can come in and just, produce a little bit of magic that we weren't maybe expecting, because they've got their chance. But yeah, sticking with 11, sorry, going back to that, Mate, is just, there's no way you can do it with just 11 for the whole season. It's never going to happen in the Premier League, is it?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, so I think the King's point, that is true. And Klopp was very much the same way his first year at Liverpool, and from Dortmund, he was very much same 11. If you remember the 16-17 season, Maddie, that we pretty much played the same 15, 16 players that whole season. They didn't really use like much of our depth because we didn't have any. Now we do have a decent amount of depth. And I guess what I'm mean to say there, Kings, is that if he's fit, he should Slot should put him on. But I think Slot in that position is thinking, 0-0, I'm okay with that. And I think he's also, again, in a position where he's trying to manage Salah's ego in many ways, or the ego of the squad, where he's trying to get Salah to come and say, like, he's out of form now, I can sub him and I can yank him. He's not trying to pull a Ten Hag and like butcher him to the media It's not he's like throwing down the gauntlet and trying to challenge him. He's trying to like show the team like now I can do my changes in a certain way, like bringing in your Chiesa or Harvey as well. And it might be they just don't rate him, but I doubt it. I doubt it's that simple because if Slot didn't rate Harvey, Harvey wouldn't be in the team. It wouldn't be on the bench in my opinion. He would put someone else in he rates because you have Trey Neone. I don't even think he brought Morton today though. I might be wrong. And I think Slot is very much trying to protect those youth players. I say youth, and Matt, I know we talked about this, that Elliott's not really a youth player. He's more of a first-team player. Slot wasn't there for that. He's come in after Klopp. He has none of Klopp's lived experience. He looks at probably Elliott Kwanzaa and Trey Neone in kind of the same light as like, you're my youth players. I need to develop you and put you in certain positions and roles and not throw you in. While, say, Morton is kind of he should get first team football. I don't think he's good enough. I'm going to keep him around just in case. And, I'll sell him and move him on and then figure out from there. And then with Chiesa, I think it's just a matter of getting his fitness up and giving him minutes. And yeah, he didn't throw him in. And, like if you throw him, could we have won? Possibly, because I think I think Salah's been not that good the past couple of games. I think this is what happens every year though. Salah is very, very hot, like record-breaking hot, and then he cools off a lot. And normally when he cools off, if no one else is picking up the pieces, the team just doesn't look as good, or it looks a lot more disjointed, like that United game yesterday.
Yeah.
A player though, Kings, who I feel like last time it was being you was on, we were speaking about Szoboszlai and what he offered to the side, and I think a lot of fans are in the same boat about like it just felt a bit meh after we brought him in and was so excited. But look at like some of the comments tonight are so different to them, to comments we had down and about how critical he is. Do you think Szoboszlai being ill and being out has made us realise just how much he adds to that side and how important his legs are? Because I think if you add Szoboszlai in tonight, the result probably is different, isn't it? Because it felt like that's where we lacked the most action, really, in the middle.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those that you only notice it when they're not there. It's kind of like Szoboszlai, to be fair, has had his ups and downs with the team. And yes, we have talked about this, and I rate the guy, to be honest. I think he's a decent player. Him being ill affected us against United, and it's affected the team tonight because even coming on as a sub, as we're saying, to try and change the game, but he's not there at all, and he's quite tenacious. I find him. I think he's a real good, hard-working player most of the time. I can't say that every game because, as we said, he's gone up and down. But yeah, I do think in both games, if he'd have been playing at least some part of it, the results may have been different because I think he adds a lot to the squad when he's available. Hopefully, I can't see him bothering now to say, well, maybe the weekend, just to get him, a little bit back up to match fitness possibly. But I don't know what's wrong with him. I'm assuming it's just a bug going around, and I say that very tongue in cheek because I know, Matty, you're not well, and I'm literally on the tail end of it. And I'll be honest now, I'm not a football player. At that point, I couldn't get off the settee. So, if these athletes are finding it tough when they're sick, then it must be, a real bad thing going through the squad at the moment, and they're just trying to manage it the best they can. Just one other thing I was going to say at the end of the game. What's your reactions to Slot? He's very measured. I know he got a booking. That's in the heat of the moment in the game. But even at the end, all that anger of kind of like they've scored, the players are going at the referee a little bit, and he just walks up, shakes his hand, walks off. He's very, very calm. He doesn't seem to let most things get to him. And I really like that about him, to be honest, because then he's in the dressing room very calm at half-time or full-time going, right, lads, okay, we've conceded a goal, we're 1-0 down, etc. This is how we're going to move forward. And I really like that about him. Do you feel the same?
Yeah. It's like one extreme to the other, isn't it? Because Klopp was so intense, hate the rest, do everything. And Slot's just this. Yeah. You can just imagine he's just so laid back, and I like it. To be fair, I love Klopp and everything he done for the club and stuff, but I like how different Slot is because you're getting that difference of kind of manager who's just more tactics, level-headed. Right, we can fix this, and I was intrigued how it'd go when we brought him in, but I can't say I'm not very, very impressed. He potentially, he is on for, I know today's a minor setback, but he is on for winning the lot in his first year. So it's
Yeah.
weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
What about
Yeah,
you?
I mean,
What about you, Dom?
well,
What's your thoughts on Szoboszlai? How important is he to the side?
I will say that I was getting pelters by defending Soboslai's importance to this team earlier in the season. Maybe less annoying than Carter at times, but no, I mean, I think that's why we haven't seen a lot of Elliott too, and why he was in preseason, but he immediately goes with Soboslai. Is that Soboslai brings so much energy and dynamism and directness to Liverpool that we just don't really have when he's not on the side. I mean, listen, I like Curtis Jones. I don't think Curtis Jones works in the 10 position for this team. It's not because he's not a good player, and it's not because he's inconsistent, whatever that means. It's that what Jones is good at is moving the ball through the phases, arriving late, and tackling in duels. But he's not really as dynamic a runner as Szoboszlai, because Jones is a forward that was converted into a midfielder, while Szoboszlai was a 10/right winger for most of his career. So if you watch where Dominik Szoboszlai has played, he's pretty much playing exactly as he played at Red Bull, at Salzburg, and everywhere else. So it's less of a transition for him to play that position. It's just, I mean, it just for me, it shows what type of player I think Slot wants to buy. Maybe not January, but in the summer, is someone who is a 10/forward that can also play there, essentially make it look like a 4-2-4. It's why I'm not convinced, like everyone else is, that Darwin Núñez is going to get sold, because there's only one player like Darwin Núñez in the team that is direct, runs, and presses. Yes, his goal scoring hasn't been there. I agree. And he's been difficult at times, I think, during games but the work rate is there, the dynamism there. You can see in this game when Darwin Núñez comes on for those 30 minutes, that was the best 30 minutes we played as an attacking team. Now, granted, Trent has been out of form, and I think Diaz is the left wing position, I think, isn't sorted yet as well. I think Slot's got to figure out if he wants to keep Diaz or Gakpo, and because I think the other one's going to go. And I think it's going to be one of the forwards that goes and someone else who goes, and they're going to figure out the rest. But for me, it's the team is just, in certain games, is just so much better with Szoboszlai. Like 9 out of 10 games, you need Szoboszlai's energy because it just changes the opposition. Maybe against the Forest, you can throw in a Harvey, someone who's a bit tricky, because Forest are big and they're bulky, but they'll foul you. And if you need someone who's a bit smaller, who can move in between the players, you can make an argument for a Harvey or for a Chiesa. But also, and I think this should not be said, Szoboszlai's just faster than Curtis Jones. And Curtis Jones is not slow. They're both big lads, but the knock against Jones as a player was that he was not pacey enough to be a forward, and that's why you didn't know if he'd work in this team with Klopp's team. But Szoboszlai is way faster. He's bigger. He's just a bit more direct. He just suits that team much better.
Yeah, I just want to raise this comment. I don't even know why I'm giving you the time, to be honest, but peaking too early, right? In the Premier League, we've played 19, won 14, drew 4 and lost 1. We've lost today. So I think we've played about 31, 32 games in all competitions. We have won about 20, how many legs before this? 23, 24 games in that time. We've drew 4 and lost 2.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Yeah, it's 20 or 23 games that we've won. So we've won 14 in the league, 6 in the Champions League, that's 20, and then 3 in the Carabao Cup. 23 games we've won, drew 4 and lost 2. And there's fans actually asking questions: have we peaked too early? Because we've lost 1-0 when we had one poor game. The game's still got to come to Anfield. Spurs will crumble under that atmosphere. But people are asking if we peaked too early because we've lost 2 games in 30 odd games. I think if you asked most Liverpool fans before, I don't know about YouTube, if you asked any of you before the start of the season, would you take Liverpool in January to be in a Carabao Cup semi-final, top of the Champions League unbeaten, top of the Premier League by 6 points with a game in hand? But would you as a tough tax? I think most people's expectations this season was top 4 and a good cup run. We've had a good cup run. We're smashing the league. I can't believe people think that we've peaked too early. 3 wins and 7 is a slow down fall. I wouldn't agree. I think we've had a lot.
But everyone has.
Of
but everyone
very
has.
busy festive period. Yeah, and
But
this is
everyone's
our
dropped
bad
a
run.
foot.
To be fair, look at Tottenham. Look at Arsenal, for example, the other side of the draw. They've now got to go to St James's Park and overturn a 2-goal deficit. Spurs have got to come to Anfield, where even Barcelona with Messi and Suarez and all them all-star players couldn't even hold a 3-goal lead. And people are moaning that the wheels have fell off over a 1-0 defeat. Yeah, it's crap. It's absolutely awful to lose the first leg 1-0. But I don't know about you two. For me, I'm sat here and I'm still not worried. I still think we're going to Wembley in March. I think we absolutely dominate Tottenham at Anfield. And then everyone will be like, oh, we've won another cup.
I think the game, was it against Fulham last season? Was that the semi-final?
Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to get a ticket and go to the game, and exactly what Matty's saying there. You know, they've got to come to Anfield. The atmosphere in that game was electric because the fans knew you're that close. I mean, I know there was another leg with that one, but it's the semi-final. They were up for it because they knew Wembley's so close. It's even closer now. They're 1-0 down. That's it. And I think Spurs are going to come there and try and play, which leaves them open to us attacking them, or they're going to sit there and try and defend a 1-0 at Anfield for the whole second leg, which is difficult in itself. As we said, we know we can score at home. So the fans bearing down at Anfield, second leg, needing to get over the line to get to Wembley again, to me, I think they will crumble, to be honest. I think it's too much of an intimidating place. Yes, they will have some players back for that, but I don't think they're going to have a fully fit. They might be at their second string then instead of their third string set up. I'm not sure, but I just can't see it happening that we don't go through. And that sounds really big-headed, and I hope people don't think that I am expectant. You know, it's just what I think. My opinion is Liverpool will be too much for them on the night. Now it's a month away. In between then, there's a lot of games to play, and going to, you know, as you said, giving airtime to the CDC, you know, if we peaked. All teams, as we know, whether you're Man City, Man United, Liverpool, whoever, have your ups and downs in the league at points. You're never, unlikely, going to go every single game and be the best you can be. It's very hard. When Liverpool and Man City did it a couple of seasons on the trot, that was such superior kind of fitness and luck for both sides to be permanently good. Most sides will have a blip. If this is our blip and we're 6 points clear, it's like, I'll take it, and a game in hand. You know, it's like, well, how can we not be happy where we are?
Yeah, and just to talk about the form, because I know people are going to bring that up. I mean, up until the United draw, we had won 4 on the bounce, and that's including Girona away. We before the loss to, and then obviously before the loss for Spurs, we had not dropped points and a loss since Forest, and that's any competition. And you know, every team right now has been inconsistent with form. Arsenal, Chelsea. The only people that have been the most informed teams is Forest and Newcastle, and that's why they've rocketed up the league. So, do you think Forest and Newcastle are going to maintain league title winning form for most of the season? I don't. You know, Arsenal have been inconsistent, and they haven't been good. For lack of a better term, they just haven't. And so at this point, like, you know, Liverpool can, for lack of a better term, they can afford to be crap for a game and not have the world like crashed out on them for the most part. And again, they are crap in a Capital One Cup, in a Carabao Cup semi-final game. And people say, well, we were crap in the league, and you know, the games before were Leicester, West Ham, you know, Spurs, where we were, you know, good at periods, and we beat those teams. So I'm not really worried. You know, obviously the slot needs to somehow, if they can drag out a win from Forest, then I think everything is, you know, none of these results really matter, in my opinion, because we have Spurs at home. It's a 1-0 deficit. 1-0 deficit to Tottenham might as well be a 2-goal advantage to you, in my opinion, especially this Tottenham side. Even if they put, you know, Romero and Van de Ven in there, like, they're going to play the way they're going to play. And somebody by that point is going to hit form. And if they don't, I still back our players to figure it out by then.
I mean, look at it a different way. Sorry, King. Go on, sorry, Matt. Well, I was just going to say, if you look back to Sunday against United, United played better than they have lately, and we were quite off it. And I know at the end what could have happened, but they still couldn't beat Liverpool, even though Liverpool were at Anfield and had a really off day. And even tonight, Liverpool didn't play great. They conceded 1 goal right at the end. It's like, it's not as if we've shipped 10 goals because we've been crap. you know, we've had 2 really off games and we've let in 1 goal. And even that, the player, whether we argue it or not, shouldn't have been on the pitch. So it's like, you know, is it worth stressing about? No, it's not. You know, at the end of the day, we've got another game to look forward to at the weekend, and then back to league action. Yes, the Forest game is going to be an interesting one because they've already beat us at Anfield. That doesn't mean we have anything to fear against Notts Forest, does it? You know, I just think it's not a blip.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of them things. It's happened. We've had a couple of off games, but it's like, this is Liverpool FC. Come on, everybody. You know, it's like, we know how it works. It's like we do have high standards, to be fair, you know, because of what's happened over the last few years. But it's no good back, you know, having a go at the lads just because they've had a couple of off games. It'll come back, and we'll be back to where we need to be, beating the team soon.
Yeah, before we do go, I want to get your thoughts on we looking ahead to the second leg of this semi. Just so I know it's hard to do that with there being so many important games thrown in the middle of that, because when you're going away to Forest and away to Brentford and stuff, and going to switch at home in that time. But there's a few games before the next leg. Dan, do you think that leg being played in February, when I'm not saying Liverpool will bring players in, I think that'd be too ambitious from our owners. But do you think that it helps players like Trent, for example, that the window's closed? He'll probably still be, yeah, and even if he is departed at the end of the season, the focus would be then be on the end of the season, because as we said on the stream last week, that the Trent's head is going to be turned by comments. Real Madrid constantly coming in for him. You've been if you thought he weren't really. So do you think the next leg of this game being when the window's shut, it's February, it's then you're looking at it thinking we'd win this, 1 trophy in the bag if we would get the final and win that, and then you're starting to look then at the end of the season and the things you can win. Do you think that'd have a positive impact on players like Trent with the window being shut? I mean, we could bring someone in, but I don't know. You bossed a lot, Dan. You seem to be minge bags.
No, I mean, okay, so for lack of better, so just so you know, John Henry is not from Boston. He's from Nebraska in the Midwest. So, you know, listen, will Liverpool buy someone in January? I have no freaking idea, because you could buy so many different types of players for different reasons. And I'm not saying that because any player would improve this team, but rather that there are so many different types of players that are out there available. I mean, we're seeing Marmoush potentially go to City for 70 mil, which Liverpool should not pay 70 million for Amar Marmoush in a January transfer window. I'm sorry, they just should. Like, the last time we spent major money on a forward was Luis Diaz, and we were bringing him forward, and we got him on a really good deal because Tottenham tried to buy him. So unless they have earmarked someone they are trying to buy in the summer, I highly doubt they're going to buy someone in January. I would agree that it could be beneficial because it's actually at the end of this long run. So from now until that semi, like, so if you think about this run in January, from now until that run in January, we're pretty much playing every 3 to 4 games. So by that time, we will hopefully, as we say in Islam and Arabic, inshallah, meaning if God wills it, we will have had either Trent sign or not sign, Verge sign or not sign, and Mo sign or not sign. Like someone is going to be signed by then. I hope so. Maybe it's the fact that Norani just gets a contract renewal, and then everyone loses their minds. But they bring back Adrian. Adrian's coming back on a free. You know, someone is going to get signed by that point. I hope so. Maybe potentially by another team, which would be very hilarious about this point. That the fact that PSG have bid 30 million for Trent Alexander-Arnold and Liverpool shipped him off with Mo Salah. I feel like either way, we'll have more clarity on those aspects, which I think will help the team in that. For Trent, I don't think it's an issue of Trent's mentality. One, Trent's always kind of been this type of player. You can go back and see 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 4 years ago, he's been this type of player. I just think right now, like some of those players, they're probably sick, carrying knocks, and just out of form. And so when you combine all those things together on televised games, you're going to look crap. And I think that's what Trent has looked bad. I think it helps that we have Bradley back, and I think it helps we have Costas back. You know, that we can manage their minutes a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, by the time we play Spurs, you know, we're going to be either back to fully fit firing Liverpool, which I would expect us to be, because we normally have a lull for a bit and then we peak back up again. We've done this with Klopp with January and February. We always have lulls during this time of the year at some point, physically, mentally, and emotionally. I expect us to be at that peak, or it could be a situation where we're starting Jadon Danns up front. and Yaros in goal, and our center back pairing is Indo and Nalo. It could be that type of situation. I highly doubt it, but we could be in that situation. So what I would say is take a breath. There's much more football to play between now and then. The only meaningful football we really have is the league games against Forest. I mean, the FA Cup, yes, it matters, and we'll play against Accrington Stanley, and I want to see players get games there. You know, I want to see Chiesa and Harvey and all of them get games. Darwin go score like, 50 shots off the crossbar, and everyone loses their shit. But, that's just where we're at right now. We don't need to win the Champions League. We've already qualified. It doesn't matter if you finish first or eighth. Really, you're going to play a good team regardless. We are 2 Champions League games against PSV and Lille, both of which we should beat them, even if we play a weak inside. So for me, none of this matters. All of this is a wash, and none of it matters if we just go beat Forest at the City Ground, which is a tall order. I feel like I'm back in the 80s, which I was not born in and did not exist. I feel like I'm back in the 80s or 70s where, Paisley or, Joe Fagan had to come give a rip-roaring, tub-thumping speech to his lads. And he's trying to tell them, if you just go beat Forest at the City Ground, we can beat it. And then they had to go against Nigel Clough. I mean, at this point, this Forest side pretty much is Clough's 70s side. They're big rocks and they kick you around, but they have just enough good players to make you worry. I don't know if Kings agrees with me on the Nigel Clough shout for this Forest side.
Well, Kings, you think are you worried? Because I feel like the general census is, yeah, we've lost the first leg, but nobody seems to be bothered nor worried. And I think most of us still fairly expect us to be in Wembley come March, don't we?
Yeah, I think after the United game, I'm older and wiser now, and I just kind of turn the TV off. I'm quite chill. I'm a bit like Slot, I like to think. Maybe my wife wouldn't agree, but I kind of like chill out and just think it doesn't matter, on to the next game, where I used to rant and rave quite a lot. After the United game, it took me about an hour to calm down because it was them. Tonight, I've just sat around and just thought, let's get the stream on, let's get it done, let's chill out, don't worry about it. There's another game to come. It's only half time as such, and we've got the FA Cup. Again, it's not stress. It might look bad if they went out to Accrington Stanley, which I can't see happening. But even if they do, it's not the end of the world. Chill out about it. It's like, there's bigger things out there to worry about. With Liverpool, they need, there's 6 points. They need to keep that extended to 9 if they can. The league and the Champions League are the 2 top trophies. If you can win all 4, that's amazing. That's unbelievable. But it's not the end of the world. Everybody out there, just relax. It'll come good.
All listen to Kings. He's like Harani Slot. Calm. No stress.
You just have to listen You just have to listen
I'm a bit like Annie. Look, I'm losing my hair.
You just have to listen to. You have to listen to the second best British manager of all time, lads. It's Tottenham. It'll be fine. It's Tottenham. No one should lose sleep over Tottenham. Brian Clough, thank you. Nigel Clough was the player we signed from him, who was a bit outdated. I don't know but this Forest team reminds me of Brian Clough's 70s team, not Nigel. Nigel was the son who played for Liverpool and wasn't that very good, sadly.
We will leave it there because I'm really sick and I want to go to bed. I'm recovering.
Yeah, okay.
But we are back tomorrow. Our usual 7:30, because we are playing the game. I'm sure the game will go in some depth there as well. People will probably start finding players to moan about. We've got people in our group chat moaning about Jamal Jones, as always. Gang of idiots. We'll leave it there. We'll see you all tomorrow. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the video. We're here every day. If you've been watching on Twitter, there's loads of comments. Get over to YouTube, because not every Twitter comment shows up, only like 2 or 3 every 100, for example. So do go over to YouTube and subscribe, and we will be able to answer all your comments there. That'd be massively enjoyed by Dan and Kings. Nice one for watching. Nice one for you for joining. We'll see you all tomorrow.